So in the brief conversation we had before we got into this talk, you did mention that you went to Australia and then you got into this preservation angle, which gave you, let's say, some interest in heritage of different countries, and then you decided to see whether you could push that forward and come into India. And I see you're part of something like Heritage, Australian Heritage. So what is that about? What is Australian Heritage in India?
See, Aus Heritage, it's a network of about 35 Australian organizations that have a passion to work internationally. It was set up by the federal government more in terms of how to put the collective expertise of all these heritage organizations and work with partners across the globe. And the strong interest for Aus Heritage was to work with Southeast Asia, with India, with China, and a few other counterparts. Now, over the last 12 years, Aus Heritage has worked with a whole range of partners in India, most major museums, with INTAC. We have a memorandum of understanding with INTAC. We worked on a number of interesting projects.
Is this Australian interest also, can you attribute it to the fact that Australia is a country made of immigrants? So a whole bunch of people have gone in there, so there are people expressing interest in different parts of the world, which many countries don't have that.
Look, I mean, I would probably say, I mean, I've lived in at least 3 countries for a substantial amount of time. I've probably visited, traveled, worked on projects in more than 40 countries. One of the attributes I think within the Australian culture is, I think they've got a strong passion to work, outside Australia, to live, to experience.
Yeah, and I think that tourism is, they'll make the world's bulk of tourists who are on backpacking.
Yeah. For a small country to do that, I think it's phenomenal. Yeah, and I think that's part of the drivers when they come there. And when they come there, they want to contribute something. Now, if you look at both Australia and India in terms of heritage, I think Australia has got some of the broader policies, planning, those kind of things really well in place. While India has got the traditions, the practices.
But none of the other things in place.
Well, I think both are needed. Yes. So it's a question, because I think in Australia they probably have forgotten the intangible aspects and they make it a bit more static than it should be sometimes. Here I think everything is dynamic. Yeah. So I think you've got to make it.
Dead people hanging in the air, no monuments to them. You just say, okay.
So I think that balance. And I think what we've been able to do is come here and add value to what's happening here.
So actual processes like restoration, for example, old building broken down to be remade. All those things have been done extensively in Australia itself, or is it that they come over here and they put into, start?
No, I mean, the thing is, I think that the technical expertise in restoring a building is available here. Okay. But what probably would add value is the planning aspect, what we call as developing a conservation management plan, doing the research, doing the process to say, look, here is a building, what was the most significant era this building had, and where can we draw a line and say that's where we need to take this building to.
Back to that area.
And what to do, and how can I go find pictures and all. That could be,
we had a situation here in Madras where we had, I think, the Convocation Hall, University of Madras. There's a big hall out here. I forget. I know there's a statue of Queen Victoria in front. It was in a dilapidated shape, and I think INTAC and other Indian conservation bodies, they put it back together. But ever since they put it back, nobody is going to visit it. Is it that we Indians don't care for it? In your observation, do you think Indians have no regard for history?
Look, I probably won't say that. I've been to, let's say, some of the Taj hotels where you have heritage buildings restored back to its glory. And I think they got the balance right in terms of tourism and using that in a sustainable way. You take the Taj Falaknuma Palace or the Taj Ramba Palace. So there's a lot of very, very good examples, where you can go and do it. But I think probably this is the right time for India to focus on
before whatever we have crumbles in the space.
I mean, I think there's always a balance between conservation and development to get the balance right. I think Singapore is probably experiencing it now, where I think they've developed reasonably.
That's true.
So they're going, and now they're really busy trying to preserve whatever little it's got.
Or recreate whatever they
exactly. Can. Or purchase more. But this is actually, the right time for India to do that. And the key thing I would probably mention there is they need to really develop the human resources that India needs to manage that. Because unless you got the people here, you can't always depend on getting consultants from overseas or expertise from overseas. It's not sustainable.
That's true.
So when you restore it, that's great. But then who's going to maintain it after that? You build a new museum or a gallery, that's great. But who's going to change the exhibits after that? Who's going to change the lighting? Who's going to probably plan for what needs to be done for a traveling exhibition?
You're absolutely right. Just happened on Sunday. I went to the museum on Pantheon Road here. I walked in, they have something called the Connemara Public Library, which had a huge library completely made of wood, but falling apart. So here was all of us, 20 of us standing outside the door, waiting to go in to see the library. And the man says it's out of bounds for everybody. So I don't know what they're restoring and who are they restoring it for. We can't go in, we can't restore it. Waste of time and money. I don't know, maybe they needed, like I said, more professional assessors, valuers who can say whether it can be restored or not.
Yeah. And I think it's a bit of a long-term strategy, but one of the really positive things is I think that whole movement, I've been working quite extensively in India for the last 15 years, and I've been fortunate to also see what's been happening in other countries. The big trend I see is what is happening now in a very positive way. Okay. You look at the major museums, I can see that whole movement happening now.
Revival.
Yeah. You got fantastic people to head these institutions. And there was a bit of a lull where many national institutions didn't have a permanent director.
So they're getting back on their feet.
Yeah, you take the
there's one other thing that Vinod has been doing, and which is a different field, completely different from what he's professionally trained for. We'll find out that when we come back.